podcast. I am Jen, GR Mom, joined as always by GR Dad.
Hi.
How's it going, GR Dad?
Pretty good.
Excellent. We got a lot of dogs making noise in the background, so things are par for the course.
I'm enjoying filling 5 food bowls again at breakfast and dinner time.
Yep. I think it was 1 week that we didn't have to do that.
Seemed like a long week.
It sure did. So, yeah. What are the cocktail of the week. Well, I tried to make this cocktail called the lime and the coconut. There are many cocktails with that name.
That song is so good.
It's a good song. The cocktail was fine. So it's 1 ounce each of coconut rum and key lime rum, which we used last week in the tropical big cheese.
Did you put the lime in the coconut?
Well, I didn't put anything in the coconut. I did go get a couple coconuts from our tree that had fallen off our tree. You got it. So for those of you who are not familiar, coconuts, like the coconuts you buy in the store, that's the inside part. It's like the pit of a peach. Mm-hmm. So there's a big thing around it, which is like the actual coconut.
Pit of an avocado.
Yes. So the thing you see in the store is like the pit. And the actual coconut is way bigger, kind of like the equivalent of an avocado to its pit. It's bigger than a football most of the time. It would hurt real bad if it fell off a tree and landed on your head.
It dents cars.
It absolutely would dent a car. They're very heavy, and you don't pick them off the tree. Like they grow in bunches, kind of where the trunk of the palm tree meets the fronds, and then they just fall off when they're ready. And they last for a really long time after they fall off.
Yeah, they can float to deserted islands and root there and start new palms. I mean, They're pretty good at what they're doing.
But they're edible for a month or two, at least after they fall off a tree. You can crack them open. I mean, sometimes 6 months.
Well,
they're fine.
Without refrigeration. I mean, even floating in the ocean sometimes.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we have a big pile of coconuts, many of which have come off of our coconut trees, some of which have floated up on the beach. I opened a couple of them today to make this cocktail, and one of them tasted just like salt water. So usually they're airtight, but this one clearly had been infiltrated. It wasn't rancid. Sometimes they get rancid, and that's really... Rancid coconut is a terrible, terrible thing. These were just kind of salty, and I think those were ocean coconuts. So I did get 2 that had come from our tree. They made good coconut water. So then you have to husk them, which requires...
A husker.
Well, if you're an expert person, you can do it with a machete, or some places have big spikes in the ground. You don't want me doing anything with a machete.
I don't.
I don't either.
No.
We have a machete. I'm not doing anything with that. I'm going to cut my leg off if I try to use that machete.
It's giving me the shudders. Whoa.
I have a coconut husker, which is basically like a big pair of pliers. It's probably 3 feet long, and it's got little pointy end. Who's that squeaking?
Guacamole.
Oh, well, that's not a surprise. And you kind of jam it in the coconut, and then you pull the handle parts apart, and it pries open at the bottom. I ordered it on eBay from some dude in Thailand who makes them clearly out of rebar. He must have a forge in his backyard. That thing is great.
It's the perfect tool for it. It has the right leverage, right? You're not killing yourself, and it grips the meat well. It's amazing to me how crappy everything else is and how good that is.
Yeah, if you try to husk a coconut with a kitchen knife or whatever tools you have in your house.
Sawzall.
Yes, it will take forever. This husker is great. So anyway, I husked a couple of the coconuts from our trees, and they were good. They were not salty. And so this cocktail is 1 ounce each of coconut rum and key lime rum, and then 3 ounces of coconut water from a freshly cracked coconut, which is what I did. And then you just shake that together. Coconut water, the stuff you buy in the store is a little more strongly flavored than the stuff you get out of a coconut usually. But it doesn't taste like a whole lot.
Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of sweetness or flavor.
Which is fine. It's good and refreshing, but it doesn't add a lot to the cocktail. And so it mostly just tastes like rum. And these are both really good rums, but I wanted something a little more than that. And I was like, hey, GR Dad, how about I put some pineapple juice in this? And so we did that. So it's not actually far off from what we had last week. And it's not bad. It's a good, if I went to a tropical, beach and I got this in a thing with a little umbrella, I'd be cool, but it's not what I wanted tonight. So I was hoping for something great and surprising.
What's that gooey stuff they make out of coconut? Cream of coconut?
Cream of coconut.
That's from the white stuff, right? I think they must like squish the meat together.
Yeah, I mean, it's coconut milk and coconut cream, which you get in a can to cook with, and then a fuckload of sugar. It's what cream of coconut is.
Because coconut milk, the coconut water doesn't taste like anything. Again, it's like the milk. You got to like get out of the white stuff.
Yeah. There's a whole process.
Yeah.
There's a reason we buy it at the store because
I don't think we could do it. Yeah.
You could, but it's a process which we're not going to talk about on this podcast.
No.
But yes, to get coconut cream and coconut milk, that's not the water on the inside. You got to use the meat for that. Anyway, so we tried to make the lime in the coconut, and it was not bad, but it was not good. So I'm drinking it dark and stormy. Jared has whatever it is that I made, pineapple juice plus that drink.
It's good. I think it's good. It's a fruity, rummy drink, and I like it.
Yeah, it's not bad.
No.
So there you go. Probably would not recommend you write that one down and make it, but if you're the person who puts them on the fan wiki, there you go. The lime and the coconut is the one for this week.
It's after the song. We recommend the song because it's a real earworm.
The song is excellent. All right, let's see. Dog updates. I like Guacamole a little bit better than I liked last week. He had just frustrated me right before we recorded the last podcast. So I was maybe a little unfair to him. He's a very good boy.
And he's mellowing.
He's getting better. I mean, everybody's getting better. It's been a really disruptive time for everyone, right? I mean, losing Queso and Jasmine, and then, since November, we've lost the two of them and brought in Swizzle, and then in February, we brought in Swizzle in November, and then we lost Queso and Jasmine in February and brought in Guac and Brody in February, like all in 1 month, a ton of changes. And, Swizz is like, she barks a lot. I mean, she's a good dog, but like that's an annoying habit, and it's very hard to train it out of her because she can't hear.
She's deaf. You can't yell at her.
Guac needs some training, and like Brody, Chief Brody, like he's pretty good. I mean, he's old enough that he's like really mellow. He does bark a little bit, but like everybody together, like our dogs would rarely bark before. Jasmine or Vink would like bark at something, and now there's much more barking. Because Swizz likes to bark at everything.
And it still has the echo effect where one of them barks and then 3 others join in, and then the first one thinks, this is awesome, let's keep barking.
Yeah. So, anyway, yes. So it's a lot of changes, and especially like bringing Guacamole and Chief Brody in so close together, nobody has really had time to settle. So now they're getting a little bit better every week. Guac is not playing aggressively like he was, which was something we were complaining about.
It's gotten much more mellow and careful.
Yeah, he sort of learned, and there weren't any incidents of anyone like giving him a nip or like correcting him. He's just kind of settled down. So
yeah, he was talking with Swizzle, and he was doing it in a very, I'd say, controlled, careful way.
Yep.
Really,
because he could just, I mean, he's like twice her size, right? He could just drag her around if he wanted to. And well, she's almost 15, right? Yeah. And he's 3, but he doesn't. Like he's really playing and attentive to them. So I still think he'll benefit from some work on that, because I can see him like getting excited if we see like a dog on the street and being just hyper, right? It's not, he's not aggressive. It's just like playing too rough and like not being able to control his feelings. And so that will help. Our plans, I guess last week was that, on April 1st, we're going to bring him to the trainer in Maryland, and we're not going to Maryland for a while now because there's nothing that we were going to do there is happening anymore. I told your dad we're not going to talk about much of the world's chaos on this podcast, but we had, I think we were going to go on vacation to New Orleans. I was going to run the Boston Marathon and the London Marathon, and I think I had a work trip in April, and now none of that is happening. I am discouraged from going to work on campus. Jared Dad works here. I mean, you could, I guess, go into the office in D.C., but it's not expected. And so there's like no reason for us to go to Maryland.
Yeah, in a way for us, it's meant more of the same instead of we were going to have a change in April when we drove back to Maryland. Right. So we're just staying here for the foreseeable future. A friend is going to stay in our house in Maryland, which is pretty cool. So she gets to water our plants and also be separate from everybody else. So Yeah, she's self-isolating in her house.
Yeah.
Funny.
She's so she's older and is, in the group, older than us, so in the group that is at higher risk. And I had texted her and I was like, if you're up by your house, we had the basement waterproofed. It's a whole drama I don't want to talk about, but it's been an expensive month for the house in Maryland. And I'm like, could you just go, like, if you're up there, could you swing by and like take a couple pictures and show me what it looks like? And she's like, oh, I'm self-isolating. I'm not going anywhere. She's like, I had rented a house because there's a bunch of people like some of their kids are coming back to their house. She's like, so I rented myself a place to go because I really want to be careful. She's like, I could go to your house though. And I was like, you sure could go to my house. Like, so that's good. The house up there is going to be taken care of. But that means Guac is not going to stay and train. So I have started working with him a few times a day on his recall, and he gets it. Like, he knows the command. He'll do it in the house now, right? If I give it to him, he'll come. Which is great, but I took him for a run today and let him off the leash. Like, he's on the leash all the time now. Oh, we haven't talked about that. Guacamole's very bad day.
Oh, yeah. That was right after we recorded the last one, and long enough that we've almost forgotten it again.
We'll give you that whole story.
From his perspective, it's not a very bad day.
Oh, my God. So anyway, you will soon hear why Guac is on the leash all the time now. So I took him for a run on this like abandoned road where we run, and I let him in the water at like Hopper's Beach, which if you follow Jen Runs with Dogs, my running account. And he went into the water, and then I tried to call him today, and he's like, heck no, I'm not coming. So it's only been like 3 or 4 days, but he at least knows the command now, and all we have to do is work it and work it and work it with him, and he'll get it.
Yeah.
So let's tell the story of Guacamole's very bad day.
Oh, yeah, because we didn't used to have him on a leash because we have a fence. We have a fenced yard, and it works great with all the other dogs. Like, there's a fence, and all they can do is run up to the fence and come back, and that's fine. And, he was slow to come in sometimes. We had some frustrations where he wouldn't come back, and he liked
slow to come in is nice. Yeah, he made us chase him.
No, that was the frustration. But we weren't really worried about him running away.
Yeah, and I think last week on the podcast we mentioned that he had realized he could run into the water and swim around, and so that made it hard to get him. But what happened on Guacamole's very bad day last week is that we had him outside, and I was downstairs working on a project. The dogs are allowed outside, and they just kind of wander in the yard. And Jared is suddenly like, "Hey, where's Guacamole?"
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, where is Guacamole?
Okay, so he is not in the yard. He is not in the house, and so we're like,
he's not with Hops in the water.
Where could he be? And the day before, he had run over to the neighbor's house in the water and was like under their dock, and Jared was trying to get him, and it was low tide, so Jared could walk over and get him.
But he was like diving under their dock because his ball had floated over there, and he was supposedly trying to get the ball, according to the neighbor who was standing on the dock.
So we look over at the neighbor's house. He's not there, but he's not in our yard. He's not out in the street. There's nobody walking by. So he must have swum somewhere.
You jumped in the kayak.
I got in the kayak and start kayaking around, and he's 2 houses down in the other direction where our neighbors are out like fishing, basically. They have a seawall. They're fishing off the seawall. He's standing like right up along the seawall. They were like throwing in cat food, I guess, for the fish.
Cat food, and he was chum.
Eating the cat food that they threw in the water. So I kayak over and then like have to call to Jared to come around on the street side with a leash to like hook him up.
And this is like get to know the neighbors.
Like, sorry, my dog ate your fish bait and now is standing in your yard. And it was the guy and his wife, and the guy was like holding my kayak because I had to, Guac, like they had a little staircase, climbed out and was like in their yard. And so I had to like grab him, waiting for Jared to get over there with the leash. And then I had to, kayak back while Jared brought him home. So that was bad. So now Guac is always on the training lead when he's outside.
And he always walks to the water and looks over longingly at the cat food heaven place, too. He's like, I could swim over there, and there's probably more cat food.
Yeah. Ugh. So that was part 1. And then we went out to dinner that night, which was still a thing we can do. Chief Brody is on prescription dog food because he's got really bad allergies. And so he came with a bag of dog food that he'd been eating. and we had it up on the counter. So it's like a 12-pound bag, probably. And it's sitting up on the counter. So, way high up. It's on the kitchen counter, and it's a sealed bag of dog food. Yeah, it's got like a little zippy seal on the top.
Heavy-duty plastic, yeah.
And it was probably half empty. So we go out to dinner, and we come home. We open the door, and I'm like, it smells like potatoes. It smells like something in here, which is not what the house normally smells like.
Hydrolyzed protein.
Hydrolyzed protein. What it actually smelled like was Chief Brody's food, because the bag of his food was no longer on the counter. It was on the floor, and it was quite a bit lighter, like many pounds lighter than it had been.
Was anyone correspondingly heavier?
Oh my God. So we knew that Guac was a counter surfer. And so I go up to Guac and I'm like, let me feel your tum, Guac. And oh my God. His belly was just massive.
Buddha belly.
Oh my God. It was so big. So of course, especially with big dogs, they can get a thing called food bloat, where basically, like, especially if so there's regular bloat, which kills a lot of dogs. And that's when their stomach kind of twists. And then the gases kind of build up in there. Most dogs die when they bloat either way. I've had it happen to a dog before. It happened to one of the dogs in the Iditarod this year, but they ended up saving her, which was good. So that's kind of regular bloat. And it happens in dogs, especially who are like deeper chested. So bigger dogs mostly. But then they can also get food bloat when they eat like a huge amount of food. So I know one guy whose dog, he had a German Shepherd who died from food bloat because he was like on campus and there had been like some, pizza party with these like deep dish Chicago pizzas, and they had just cleared everything off, and there was a whole deep dish pizza basically in the trash afterwards, and he ate the whole thing and died because they get all the food in the stomach, and then it basically kind of solidifies into a big mass. And then like any of the stomach gases can't get out, it can't pass out of their digestive tract because it's like one big mass that doesn't break down.
A mysterious foreign object.
Kind of, yeah. But they die a lot faster than with the mysterious foreign object. And so if they eat a lot of kibble, that can happen where it gets like, it absorbs water in the stomach, and then it turns into one big mass.
Could turn into a brick, like Adobe brick.
Basically, yeah. So I called the vet, and I was like, he's not, I've had a dog who bloated before. He's not doing any of that stuff. He's perfectly happy, but his belly's giant. And they're like, well, they thought it was very funny. And they're like, just keep an eye out so the signs of bloat is like if your dog starts retching, like they're going to throw up, but nothing comes out. That's a really classic sign because nothing can come out. That's the problem. Yeah. But they're trying to clear it. My dog who had it, like she literally went into a dark corner of the backyard to die. It was terrible. She lived though.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. She had 2 a.m. emergency surgery and 3 days in the ICU, and $8,000 later I had her back. But yeah, they're really in distress. And so he wasn't doing any.
No, Guac was pretty pleased with him. What did we calculate? Between 7 and 10 pounds of food?
No. The bag was only 12. It was probably 3 or 4 pounds of food.
Yeah.
But it was still a lot. It's a lot of kibble to eat. And, so, we had to watch him all night. So in one day he escaped.
You walked him. You were trying to get him to process it as fast as possible.
That's terrible.
And he felt a little uncomfortable, but not that guilty.
No, he was fine. By the next morning, he was fine. No problems. Like he seemed a little uncomfortable, like overnight and in the morning, like just from all the pressure of all that food in him. But then he was fine. So he thought it was probably a day of great adventure. It was a day.
It was like his red letter day. It was like that was my best day so far.
Oh my God! So now it's sort of like. We both have to be very careful about not leaving any food on the counter, but I'm constantly like, put those treats away. Like, dear Dad, you got to put the crackers away. You cannot leave anything on the counter because he's going to pull it down. And he has to be on the leash when he's outside. That said, he's very good. He seems very happy learning the training. Like he seems to like me more as I teach him stuff. And so I think he'll learn. It's just going to take a while.
And he's relaxing.
He's calmer.
He's relaxing. He's realizing this is permanent, that these are his sisters and brother. And it's good. He gets on the bed and he snuggles. And
he's a great snuggler.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Chief Brody, on the other hand, is a perfect angel, and I'm in love with him, and he's the best.
He's an even greater snuggler.
Oh my God, he's so good.
He snuggles like a Chihuahua snuggles, or a French bulldog, but he's 90 pounds.
I don't know how Chihuahuas or French bulldogs snuggle. Is that true?
I'm imagining snuggly. I don't know. They're small.
Wait, you just picked breeds and you're like...
Little dogs, they're like lap dogs. They want to snuggle up to be warm.
All right. Any Chihuahua or French bulldog owners, it's at Ingo Burkhardt if you want to correct his impression of your dog.
I think they're snuggly, but...
But is that's like you theorizing or you know? Your dad's making shit up. Okay. He's very snuggly. The problem is that like he's so grateful to be here, and I think happy to be out of the cone, happy that he's not itchy, like just feeling really good. He's so happy and grateful for it that like in the middle of the night, he's like, I need to get up on the bed and I need to lick you both in the face.
And then rub into you. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's adult, and he makes schmeeg noises.
He's got the schmeeg sounds.
He's just so fun, and he rolls on his back and is joyful.
Oh my gosh, he rolls on his back and like holds toys in his hands. There's that like great viral video of the golden retriever who has a stuffed golden retriever, and he's on his back and he sticks his front paws way out like with the golden retriever, and he looks at them. And he's got this like big happy face, and then he pulls it down and like smushes it on his face. And then he holds it back up again. Chief Brody does that with like the donut. He was doing it with the donut last night, like this donut toy. And then he stuck like his bottom jaw through the hole of the donut. And he's like, I can stick my little snoop in the hole. This is pretty great. So he's just big. He's
having a great time.
Wonderful, snuggly. I mean, last night at some point, like I spoon with him and he like gets up and down, got up, and I was sleeping like back to back with him at one point, and he's so happy and he's so good. He's just
giant for a lap dog.
I think he does climb on you.
Squeezes some air out of you.
Yeah. You guys have maybe seen the videos of like Hops does this with GR Dad, where she puts like one paw on either side of his shoulders and sometimes
the face.
Yeah. Sometimes back feet on either side of his hips and then just lowers herself down so she's entirely on top of him. Chief Brody, thankfully, does not do the whole body, but he does do the one paw on either side of the shoulders and then lays
got pointy elbows too.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Lays his torso across you, and very insistent face licker, but he's great. He's a real winner, and I just think he's wonderful.
Yeah, and he's fitting in well. He's playing more. He thinks it's awesome to have toys available. He's learning that these can be his toys too.
Yeah, no, he's playing definitely more with everybody else. And Guac too is being a really good playmate. He and Sizzle, like Sizzle loves Guac.
Sizzle is so excited to have Guac around.
She thinks he's great.
And Guac doesn't really know what to do about that at this point.
He's playing with her though. Like
yeah, he's getting much better.
Like they were tugging this morning, and she like taunts him and like makes him chase her around, and she chases him out in the yard a little bit when he's running. Like she really thinks he's very exciting.
Yeah, totally.
So they have a good time together. He still does this thing though, where he puts his ball on the ground 3 inches from his face and then growls at it.
Because like it's gonna come back to him if he growls enough.
So anyway, everybody's doing good. No problems to report. So that's the dog update for this week.
Yeah, upward trajectory, or we're getting more used to it. Who knows?
All right. So taste of the keys for this week. As I said, we're not doing any coronavirus stories. So we have man causing disturbance in plane at Key West Airport arrested. So that's always good. I know a guy who got thrown off a plane once.
I remember that story, yes.
Guac!
He got thrown off a plane for being kind of grumpy, I think.
For being a jerk. Can you give Guac whatever it is he's growling at?
I think it's the new toy that
Vink has?
Vink is taking apart.
Hang on. Vink, no. Oh, I'm podcasting. Okay. Oh, no, Guac. All right, don't climb up on the counter. Sorry, Vink, you lose. There you go, Guac. Okay. All right. A 32-year-old homeless man was arrested Sunday morning after causing a disturbance on a commercial airplane as it was preparing to leave Key West International Airport and spitting on a Silver Airways employee. That is a poor sentence, though you do get a sense of all the stuff that happened.
Yeah.
This dude, he was charged with disorderly intoxication, big shocker there, disturbing the peace, battery on a law enforcement officer, battery and resisting arrest. Okay, so they call the cops out. The plane is sitting on the tarmac. So Key West International Airport.
That is what it's called.
It is. It has 6 gates, which are 6 doors to the outside.
It's at ground level.
Yes, it's at ground level. And when you want to get on a plane, you walk out the door and you walk across the tarmac and then walk up a set of stairs onto your plane.
It's like into your yard is the gate. Like that, your house has 2 gates to your backyard.
Yeah, that's right. And so it's not a big airport, and you have to walk across the tarmac both ways. And in fact, you can't transfer. This is interesting. Like there was some big weather event once when I was flying down here, and for some reason, some people flew to Key West and then were going to get on a plane in Key West to go back up to Tampa or something. Yeah. There'd been tons of cancellations, and I think they're like, all right, well, let's get them down to Florida. And we had been delayed, and they were getting in 5 minutes before the gate was closing for their Tampa flight. But the problem is that you can't, those 6 gates, the people who are getting off the plane don't go in there. They go in to the
right or to the left of
to
those 6
where
gates.
the baggage claim is. And that's on the wrong side of security, right? You don't go into the departure lounge where all the gates are. You just go directly to baggage claim. And so if you get off a plane in Key West and then you want to get back on another plane, you have to go through security because you can't go back in. It's just not an option to go back in. Right. So it's a very tiny little airport with people walking around, and there's just little green lines that is walk between the green lines to get from your plane. Okay, so that's just to set the stage. This plane is on the tarmac. That's where you get on the plane. They just park out there, and they've got little stairways or ramps that you walk up to get on. Okay, so the plane is on the tarmac. This is a Silver Airlines plane. I think they've got the propeller planes. So there's small regional jets like Embraer 175s often fly into Key West. There's no giant planes that fly in.
Silver Airlines goes to Florida, pretty much, southern Florida.
They do a lot of Latin America too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when we flew Panama to Newark, and I think from Guayaquil to Panama, I think that was on Silver Airways.
Okay.
But yeah, so they contract with United. But yeah, so they do fly a lot over Florida, and they have little propeller planes that fly into Key West. All right, so he's on a Silver Airways plane. The plane's sitting on the tarmac, and he's just it's getting ready to depart, and they're kicking this guy off. So he's on the plane, apparently is making a big scene.
Spit at the
spit in the flight attendant's face. And they're like, okay, the cops show up and they're like, dude's super drunk. He's uncooperative. So they get him off the plane, bring him down the stairs, and he lays down on the tarmac, just drops to the ground. He's like, no, I'm not going anywhere.
Like a toddler.
Yeah. So they're trying to pick him up, and it really is like a toddler. It says he began twisting his body and kicking.
Just like a 2-year-old with a tantrum.
A 2-year-old at the grocery store who's like, I want the chocolate. And you're trying to pick them up, and they're all just kicking their legs and screaming.
Impossible to pick up.
That's this 32-year-old guy on the tarmac of Key West Airport. Yeah, so they managed to secure him when he's on the ground, and he's still twisting and kicking around in view of airport passengers, it says in this story, arriving and departing crews, as well as other airport employees, thus interrupting normal airport operations, which I guess is probably a charge they can give you, because people are trying to do stuff and there's just this psycho tantrum 32-year-old happening. So they finally get him in the car, so they take him through baggage claim, walk roughly 15 feet until they're out of the airport.
There's always cop cars.
There are 2 carousels, Carousel 1 and Carousel 2. And in between them is a rum bar.
Yep.
And then
it's pretty good.
You
pretty
walk
good
outside.
Drinks.
That's it. And there's bathrooms. That's it.
Yeah.
The baggage claim area is very small.
And then there's chickens.
And then you go out and there's chickens outside, which you've seen us chase the airport chickens. That's there. And then the cops are parked right out in front of the door there. So they get him out. They put him in the car and he starts banging his head on the partition like that divides the front and the back seat.
How many episodes of Cops is that in where they're just like banging and kicking in the back seat?
Oh my God. Yeah. I used to watch Cops all the time.
I know you did.
Yeah, I can't really watch it anymore, but many years. And growing up, we watched Cops all the time, too. Okay, so this guy is smashing his head on the partition. Then they put him in a hobble restraint device. Should we Google what that is?
Probably like what they put people in jail, in courtrooms and stuff, right?
I don't know. I've never really been in a courtroom like that. Oh, so it's got a little, like, belt thing that goes around your waist, and then they tie your feet together, and that like has like a dog leash basically that clips to the waist thing. And then there's also like behind your back, they can clip that to the waist thing.
So you can't run fast at all.
So your legs are tied together, your ankles are tied together, and then your hands are handcuffed or whatever. They can be cuffed onto this, and then there's your waist belt, and then your wrists are cuffed to the belt, and then there's a kind of leash, a cable, whatever, that connects your ankles to the belt also.
It looks terrible.
But it
really
hard.
Restricts your ability to kick and punch and run.
Oh, this is interesting. So you can do it when you're like, so imagine sitting down, leaning up against a wall with your legs out in front of you. So you can wear the hobble restraint device like that. I'm looking at the preview of a YouTube video called The Hobble Restraint Device Used for Non-Compliant Individuals. And so hands behind the back, ankles, legs out in front of you, ankles bound together, and then both of those tied to the waist thing. Or you can have a dude basically hog-tied, face down on the ground, ankles connected to wrists, connected to waist.
Maybe they did that with him since he was tantrumy.
Oh, look, no, there's a specific image for when in the vehicle. Hobble is secured by closing the door on the strap to tether the person's feet. So that's interesting. So you've got the hands tied in, you got the feet stuck to the closed in the door.
He was kicking the partition, I think. They didn't like that.
It says banging the head.
Oh.
He was banging his head on the partition divider. He was placing a hobble restraint device while yelling and spitting at deputies. It took both deputies to overpower and restrain him. He then spit in the deputy's face.
This guy was really into spitting.
The guy stated he was a Marine Corps veteran and that he had the coronavirus. Oh, I was trying to avoid coronavirus and I forgot this guy. I've seen a lot of those stories this week, like people who spit in cops' faces and say they have the coronavirus.
Cops, being a police officer is the hardest job in the world to do well. Jeez. It is really hard. We expect a lot of these guys.
Yeah, I hope. I know the guy didn't have the coronavirus because there are currently 0 cases of coronavirus in Monroe County, so he didn't have it, assuming he got tested for it. So another cop shows up. They transported him to the Lower Keys Medical Center, which is a hospital on Stock Island, roughly 3-minute drive from the airport.
And right across the street from the jail.
It is right next to the jail, yes. They found a small glass pipe with marijuana residue in it. He changed his story and said he lied about having the coronavirus. And he was medically cleared at the hospital. So if you need a coronavirus test, what you can do is spit in a cop's face, tell them that you have coronavirus, and then you will get fast-tracked for a test at the hospital.
You know what their test was? They took his temperature. They probably didn't do a coronavirus test.
Don't listen to JR Dad. He's just making shit up.
This guy's fine.
JR Dad doesn't know.
Spitter.
He was medically cleared at the hospital. He is a spitter for sure.
Yeah.
Don't make up stories about how he was determined to not have coronavirus.
I know some stuff, man.
Don't be that guy. You don't know anything. That means yes. The translation of that sound is, yes, Jen, I don't know anything, and I'm sorry that you're calling me out about it on the podcast.
That may be true.
Arwen was booked into jail. Oh, see, I was trying not to use his name. He was booked into jail. He had previously been released from jail on March 11th, so this is a few days before, after being arrested by Key West Police Department for burglary and resisting arrest. So
he may be even a worse guy than a spitter. Burglary's not accidental.
No. I mean, spitting's not really accidental either.
No.
Lying about having coronavirus is not.
Also not.
An accident. And so anyway, there you go. There's our miscreant of the week. All right, Giordad.
From the keys.
From the keys, yeah. You got a German word of the week for us?
Kontaktpersonenmanagement.
There's a little American at the end there.
Well, we
Kontaktpersonenmanagement. You got to say it angrier. Just say it angry.
Kontaktpersonenmanagement.
That's better. Contact person management.
Yeah.
Social distancing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Manage how many people some person gets in contact with.
Yeah.
And to. Yeah. In the Allgemeinbevölkerung, in the general population.
Oh, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Good one. So I'm teaching. I teach social network analysis. I teach a class on social networks, and so I'm teaching it both online at the University of Maryland for undergraduates, INST 155 if you're at the University of Maryland, you can take it, or INST 633 if you're a graduate student. But I also teach like a 4-week short course through statistics.com that covers a lot of similar material, like the statistical parts of it. And so both classes this week are in the network propagation section, which
coincidentally
just talks. It's literally like epidemiology. Like here's how diseases spread. Like here's different models of diseases. Here's how they spread through contact networks. Like,
and you used to do zombie outbreak modeling.
I have a chapter that calls it that, but there's literally an exercise where like, here's a social network. You know, these 3 people are infected, and you have to choose people to quarantine. And it was always like such a hard exercise to give students to be like, let me explain what quarantining is. And it's a very difficult decision to make, to force someone to stay in their house, and it takes a lot of resources to do that. Right. And so you can't just
gotta get it right.
Quarantine everyone. You have to pick like who are the people that you're going to quarantine. So you basically do it like a game, right? So here's your person. You get to pick 3 people to quarantine, and then the disease spreads to the first contacts, and then you get to pick some more. And the goal is like, how do you cut off the biggest part of the network by quarantining people? This week, that's the exercise they're all working on. And
as though you'd planned it.
Man, so some of the students are like, wow, that really worked out. And I'm like, I expect you all to do very well. Like, enjoy your new knowledge.
This has been on the syllabus since January.
Yeah. So anyway, that's sort of interesting, but yeah, contact person management is exactly what they're working on in class and in their everyday lives, and just making learning more relevant. Let's see. Anything else you want to add before we sign off for the week? Okay, your time's up. How's queso?
Queso's always awesome. It's always going to be awesome.
Always. Until next week, everyone, wash your hands, stay in the house, don't bite anyone unless they ask you to.
Spit on people, don't bite anyone, for Pete's sake, guys.
Keep your mouth to yourself.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.